while taxes are on sale, while we have the Roth accounts available to us, while taxes are low, and we know that they will be at least for some amount of the foreseeable future until Congress acts, let's go ahead and either utilize Roth contributions or Roth conversion.
Peter, very good to see you, and welcome back, everyone. We're going to dive into the headlines today, what the big, beautiful bill means for your retirement. Washington recently passed what President Trump is calling the big, beautiful bill, which could reshape how millions of Americans plan for retirement. So I want to start big picture here, Peter. What are the takeaways?
Well, the headline is that this is permanent, that it is so permanent. Well, when something is difficult to change, they say it will take an act of Congress. This is not that permanent because it actually incentivizes Congress to act again in the near future. It is in place until Congress acts again, actually with some provisions that are already set to sunset and expire. So it's not as permanent as it's made out to be. And I think that that is the big takeaway, because we're going to talk about, how this might present some opportunities, or that we may want to act now while the acting is good on a few things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been saying permanent until it's not.
Right. Yeah. The tax code's written in pencil. Congress has an eraser, and they like to use it often. So it'll change.
All right, so let's dive into those really confusing headlines about taxes on Social Security. The agency framed the new $6,000 senior tax deduction as eliminating taxes on benefits, but experts say it's not that simple. Can you explain?
Yeah, so in order to eliminate the taxation of Social Security benefits, this bill would have had to have passed in the more traditional style, which would have required a 60-vote margin in the Senate. Instead, they didn't think they had those votes, so they passed through a process called reconciliation, which only requires a simple majority, which they figured they did have, and they did, and it passed through reconciliation. But because of the process, they were not able to just eliminate the tax on Social Security, which was the headline that they wanted, right? That they've eliminated the tax on seniors and Social Security. Well, so because they wanted the headline, but were not able to pass it in the traditional manner, what they did was essentially an end around. They did grant an additional $6,000 deduction for Americans 64 and above, but this phases out with some income thresholds. The bottom line is that for the majority of Americans who are earning less than about $150,000 of tax-hold income, you are essentially now, for the time being, going to get this credit that offsets what you would pay in Social Security. And it's not a straight credit. It is just an additional deduction. So let me clarify that. It is not a credit. You will get this additional $6,000 deduction that, in essence, with what tax rates are in that income range, would offset what most people are paying in tax on their Social Security. However, this is one of those provisions of the bill that is not permanent. This one expires in 2028. So it's really only a 3-year measure that they were able to extend this, and it's retroactive for this year. So essentially 4 years that they are able to grant this additional deduction to offset the tax on Social Security. But the headline is, we did away with taxes on Social Security. Not really, and for a limited time only.
Right. I think it begs the question, though, Peter, a lot of people are probably wondering, especially with that sunset clause, whether this changes the strategy around when we should claim Social Security.
I don't think it does. I mean, for me, in my perspective, there are always the two schools of thought about Social Security is get it as soon as you can at 62, the building's on fire, get it while the getting's good. And then the other school of thought is wait all the way until 70 to maximize your benefit. I think there is a kernel of truth in both of those lines of thinking, but neither one is universally correct. My thinking on Social Security has generally been take it when you see a a recurring need for additional livable income after you retire or after full retirement age. If it is just kind of a one-time need for income, I probably wouldn't turn on the Social Security for that. If you do not need that income to meet your living expenses this month, next month, and for every month in the foreseeable future, I probably would wait and delay. But before dipping into personal assets and investments, your investment capital allows you to access it in case of emergency. You can pull out more if and when you need it. It also should grow. You should get a rate of return on those investments. And if you pass away early, it passes on to your beneficiaries. Social Security doesn't do those things. You do have the automatic increase in income if you wait and delay those additional years all the way up through 70. But if you've got an emergency, you can't reach in and say, hey, Social Security, send me an extra certain amount of money. It is a set amount. That's all you have access to. And if you pass away early, your Social Security benefits do not transition and transfer on to your next generation. So I have always looked at it as use Social Security as an effective protection for your personal assets as much as possible. So I don't think that these rules really change my perspective on when and how to claim and collect Social Security all that greatly.
Okay. All right. Let's circle back to the other big takeaway, which was something you touched on, the extension of the 2017 tax cuts. Essentially, our tax brackets are going to stay in place permanently, in quotes, I say there. So explain, Peter, why now is still a good time for a Roth conversion, and why are Roth accounts so powerful?
Well, I mean, the tax-free nature of the Roth account has more benefits beyond what a lot of people even realize. Most of my clients have done a fantastic job in a couple of the critical areas for effective planning: income and investments. They earned a healthy income. They were investing some of that income along the way. But even that turns upside down in retirement. And then the way that we have been taught to invest actually works against our effectiveness in several of the other pillars: taxes, healthcare, and legacy. And specifically with these tax deferred accounts, it impacts our income in retirement, obviously, but it also impacts how much we end up paying for healthcare costs potentially. And ultimately, the effectiveness and the impact of the legacy that we leave behind is going to be impacted by taxes. And so we have really been taught to save in such a way that works against our interests in retirement. And as more and more people are transitioning to retirement, we're seeing more and more of a realization about this. And now we have these Roth accounts available. They have not been available for the majority of the lifespan and the working career of many of the people who are now transitioning to retirement. But I see a lot of people kind of looking back and wishing they had done more of their saving and investing in Roths. Now, I don't say that it's a mistake to have saved and invested the way that people have. We've done a good job. The tax deferred accounts were a good tool because tax rates have come down. Don't kick yourself for that, but look at right now as an opportunity to do some effective tax planning, because we are at historically low tax rates. The median tax in this country would have to go up about 25 to 30% to even get back to historical averages. So while taxes are on sale, while we have the Roth accounts available to us, while taxes are low, and we know that they will be at least for some amount of the foreseeable future until Congress acts, let's go ahead and either utilize Roth contributions or Roth conversions. Both are very valuable. There's almost nobody who's completely eliminated from getting some money into a Roth one way or another. I don't think that you're ever too young or too old to take advantage of the Roth. I heard somebody mentioning that up until 65 was the time to do it, but not after. I think that there is a benefit for Roth strategies at almost any stage, even if it's not for you. If they're dollars that you might not use yourself over your lifetime, the Roth as part of a legacy is a more valuable dollar to leave behind. And generally, when you're leaving those dollars behind, the kids or whoever's receiving them already has an income of their own. So all of that said is like right now, while we have the air quotes here, permanent tax rates extended, it is a really good time to continue to look at Roth conversions, particularly if you are one that might be encountering IRMA, which is the income related monthly adjustment amount on your Social Security, on your Medicare Part B and Part D. These trust funds that are funded by IRMA are the only ones that are solvent right now. And these are line item additional fees that are sort of outside the tax code. So I really feel like the government might look at the fact that Social Security is having trouble, Medicare Part A is having trouble, but B and D, which are funded by IRMA, are actually in pretty good shape and say, well, it's working over there. Why don't we do the same thing with other areas of revenue collection? And if they do that at some point into the future, those Roth dollars are going to be even more valuable to you because those withdrawals don't trigger the IRMA fees. So let's look at just kind of comprehensive planning, being as tax efficient as possible, keeping as much of our money, avoiding unnecessary taxes and fees. And all of this points to the fact that right now is still an important time to continue looking at these Roth conversions.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, again, Peter, I appreciate your time to dive into this bill, which is close to 1,000 pages. We can boil it down to some big takeaways. But if people would like to sit down with you, learn more about how they may be affected by anything in this bill, what's the best way to reach you?
Yeah, give us a call. We are helping people review plans as life changes, as laws change all the time, just making sure that you've addressed all of the pillars of planning in an effective way. Give us a call for that optimized retirement plan, 919-300-5886, 919-300-5886, or online at RichonPlanning.com. That looks like Rich on planning.com. So 919-300-5886 or RichonPlanning.com.
All right, Peter, thank you.
Thank you. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. You know, one of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred, 401k or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.